The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such panic. Ambassador Kale's forearm shook as he stood before the massive assembly. His blue skin had turned pale, and his 3 eyes darted nervously between the hundreds of alien delegates. 3 days, he said, his voice barely a whisper. 3 days of complete silence from Earth. The hall erupted into chaos. Species from across the galaxy began talking at once, their voices creating a horrible mix of sounds. Some delegates clicked, others whistled, and a few made deep growling noises. But they all meant the same thing: fear. Commander Yoon sat in the human section of the hall, watching the panic spread. He was one of only 12 humans on Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council. His dark eyes stayed calm, but inside, his heart was racing. Earth had gone silent. Not just quiet, completely silent. For 300 years, Earth had been the loudest planet in the galaxy. Human radio signals, television shows, internet chatter, and music had flooded space with constant noise. Other species often complained about how much humans talked. They called it human static and said it was annoying. Now that static was gone. "Order, order," shouted the council speaker, a tall creature with gray skin and no visible mouth. The noise in the hall slowly died down. "Commander Yoon, please explain what this means." Yoon stood up slowly. All eyes in the hall turned to him. He felt the weight of their stares and cleared his throat. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Earth's communication array has never failed before. It broadcasts automatically every hour, sending news, entertainment, and status reports to the galaxy. The system has backup power, backup generators, and backup backups. For it to go completely silent," he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone in the hall knew galactic history. When a species went silent, it meant one of two things. Either they were all dead, or they had become something dangerous. "We need to investigate," said Admiral Vex, a reptilian creature from the Outer Rim. "Send a survey ship immediately." "Already done," Yoon replied. "Captain Park is leading a mixed crew to the Sol system on the starship Star Whisper. They should reach Earth in 6 days. The hall fell quiet again. 6 days felt like forever when nobody knew what had happened to 4 billion humans. On board the Star Whisper, Captain Park stared at the navigation display. She was human, one of the few who worked on mixed alien crews. Her black hair was tied back in a tight bun and her hands gripped the control panel. "Still no signals from Earth," reported Lieutenant Kai, a green-skinned alien from the inner worlds, "not even automated systems." Park nodded. She had been trying to contact her home planet for 3 days. Her family lived in Seoul, her friends in Busan. Were they all dead? Were they in danger? The questions ate at her mind. "Captain," called Dr. Zim from the science station, "we're picking up something strange." "What kind of strange?" Park asked. "Power readings from Earth's moon. Big ones. And there's construction heat signatures all across the surface." Park walked over to look at the screen. Red and yellow dots covered the moon's surface like a rash. Each dot represented massive energy output. "How is that possible?" she asked. "The moon only had 3 small research stations." "Not anymore," Zim said quietly. The Star Whisper continued toward Earth. As they got closer, more strange readings appeared on their screens. Jupiter's moon showed signs of mining operations that hadn't been there 6 months ago. Saturn's rings had new structures floating in them. Most strange of all, there were ships moving between the planets, ships that didn't match any human design in the databases. "Captain," said Communications Officer Wren, "I'm detecting something else." "What now?" "A signal. Very low frequency, very weak. It repeats every 24 hours. Park felt her heart skip. "Can you decode it?" Wren worked at his station for several minutes. His tentacles moved quickly over the controls, adjusting frequencies and filters. Finally, he looked up. "It's just numbers. Coordinates, I think. And a timestamp." "Coordinates to where?" "Unknown. They don't match any location in our star charts." The bridge fell quiet except for the hum of the ship's engines. Park stared at Earth on the main screen. Her home looked normal from this distance, blue and green and beautiful. But something was very wrong. "Captain," said Tactical Officer Nex, "I'm reading energy signatures around Earth that shouldn't be possible." "Show me." The main screen changed to show a tactical display. Red dots appeared around Earth, hundreds of them. They formed rings around the planet, like invisible shields. "Those are weapon platforms," Nex said, his voice shaking. "Big ones. The energy readings are off the charts." Park felt cold. "Humans don't have weapons like that." "They do now," Nex replied. The Star Whisper moved closer to Earth. As they approached, more surprises appeared. Massive space stations orbited the planet, hidden from normal sensors. Ship construction yards floated near the moon, building vessels the size of cities. And everywhere there were defenses. "Captain," Ren called out, "I'm getting a transmission." "From Earth?" "Yes. It's just one word." Park waited. The bridge crew all looked at the communication station. "Leave." The single word came through, the speakers in perfect English. The voice was calm, human, but completely cold. "Repeat that," Park said quickly. Nothing. The transmission ended. "Try to respond," she ordered. Ren worked his controls frantically. "I can't. They've blocked our communications." Park looked at the tactical display again. Those red dots around Earth had moved. They were all pointing at the Star Whisper now. "We need to back away," said Nex. "Those weapons are tracking us." "No," Park said firmly. "We need answers. Earth is my home. These are my people." "Captain," Zim said quietly, "I don't think they're your people anymore." Before Park could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. The tactical display showed dozens of new contacts appearing around them, ships that had been completely invisible until now. "How many?" Park asked. 37 vessels, Nex reported. "All human design, but modified. Their weapon signatures are incredible." "Are they hostile?" "Unknown. They're just watching us." Park stared at the screen. 37 human ships surrounded the Star Whisper, but they hadn't fired. They were waiting for something. "This is Captain Park of the GSV Star Whisper." She broadcast on all frequencies. "I am human. I am coming home. Please respond." For long minutes, nothing happened. Then a new voice came through the speakers. This one was warmer, more familiar. "Captain Park, we know who you are. We've been monitoring your ship since you left Nexus Prime." "Who is this?" "Commander Jin of Earth Defense. You need to turn around and leave our system immediately." "I won't leave without answers," Park said. "What happened to Earth? Why did we go silent?" A long pause followed. Park could hear the bridge crew breathing around her. "Because," Jin finally replied, "we discovered that silence is the only way to survive what's coming." The transmission ended. The human ships around them began to move away, disappearing from sensors as quickly as they had appeared. Park stared at Earth on the main screen. Her beautiful blue home looked the same as always, but now she knew the truth. Earth hadn't gone silent because something bad had happened to it. Earth had gone silent because something bad was coming to the galaxy. And somehow, 4 billion humans had decided that the only way to survive was to disappear from the universe's awareness entirely. The silence wasn't a cry for help, it was a warning. Dr. Hana pressed her face against the observation window of the research vessel Deep Survey. 6 months had passed since Earth went silent, and the scientific community across the galaxy was in chaos. Every species wanted to know what happened to the humans. "Still no response to our signals," reported Captain Minho from the bridge. His voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "We're 3 days out from Earth's outer detection grid." Hana nodded and turned back to her instruments. As the galaxy's leading expert on human behavior, she had been chosen to lead this investigation. Her green skin marked her as Kitharin, a species known for their analytical minds and patience. But even her patience was being tested. The humans had been loud for centuries. They broadcast everything. Their news, their entertainment, their arguments, even their cooking shows. Other species found it annoying, but scientists like Hana found it fascinating. Humans were chaotic, emotional, and unpredictable. They were also incredibly creative. Now they were silent. And silence from humans was terrifying. "Dr. Hana," called Lieutenant Baum from the sensor station. "I'm detecting something strange." "What kind of strange?" "We're being scanned. Continuously. From multiple sources." Hana walked over to look at the display. Lines of energy crossed back and forth across their ship, probing every surface, every system. "Where are the scans coming from?" Baum adjusted his controls, trying to trace the signals. "Everywhere. The asteroid belt, the outer planets, even empty space. There are sensors hidden all throughout this system." "Hidden how?" "Stealth technology, better than anything in our databases." Hana felt a chill run down her spine. The humans had always been behind other species in technology. Their ships were slower, their weapons weaker, their defenses basic. But now they had sensor networks that could hide from the galaxy's most advanced detection systems. "Captain Minho," she called to the bridge. "Are you seeing this?" "Yes, Doctor. We're being watched by at least 50 separate sensor arrays, and that's just what we can detect." The deep survey continued toward Earth. As they traveled deeper into the Sol system, more hidden sensors revealed themselves. They were everywhere, in the moons of Jupiter, floating in Saturn's rings, buried in asteroids, hidden behind the sun itself. "This is incredible," Hana whispered. "They've turned their entire star system into a surveillance network." "But why?" asked Dr. Wan, her research assistant. "What are they watching for?" Before Hana could answer, new alarms sounded. The ship's defensive systems had activated automatically. "What's happening?" Hana called to the bridge. "We're being targeted." Minho replied, his voice tight with stress. "Multiple weapon locks from unknown sources." Hana rushed to the bridge. The main screen showed their tactical situation, and what she saw made her blood freeze. Red dots surrounded them. Hundreds of them. Weapons platforms hidden throughout space were all pointing at their small research ship. "How many?" she asked. "I count 312 separate targeting systems," reported Tactical Officer Lee. "All human technology, but advanced beyond. Anything in our records, or are they going to fire?" "Unknown, they're just waiting." Hana stared at the screen. The humans weren't attacking, but they had enough firepower pointed at the deep survey to destroy a battle fleet. "Try to contact them," she ordered. Communications Officer Park tried multiple frequencies but got no response. The targeting systems continued to track them, but no shots were fired. "This is a test," Hana realized suddenly. "What kind of test?" Minho asked. "They're studying us, learning about our technology, our capabilities, our intentions. Every second we stay here, they're gathering data." As if to prove her point, new scanning beams swept across their ship. These were different from the first ones, more intense, more focused. They probed the ship's computer systems, its weapon capabilities, even the biological signatures of the crew. "They're downloading our computer files," Park reported. "I can't stop it." "Let them," Hana said quietly. "Doctor, if we resist, they might see us as hostile. Let them learn what they want to know." The scanning continued for 20 minutes. During that time, the hidden sensors mapped every system on their ship, analyzed every crew member, and copied their entire database. Then suddenly, it stopped. "All targeting systems have disengaged," Lee reported. "The weapons are no longer aimed at us." "Why?" Minho asked. Before anyone could answer, a new contact appeared on their sensors. A ship was approaching from the direction of Earth, a human ship, but unlike any they had seen before. It was sleek, dark, and moved with incredible speed. "Incoming." "Transmission," Park announced. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was human, female, and completely calm. "This is Commander Sue of Earth Defense. You have been cleared to continue your approach, but you will follow our designated route exactly. Any deviation will be considered hostile." "We understand," Minho replied. "We're here on a peaceful scientific mission." "We know. We've analyzed your crew, your ship, and your mission parameters. You have Dr. Hana aboard. She's published 17 papers on human behavior and culture." Hana felt surprised. You've read my research? We've read everything, Doctor. Every scientific paper, every news report, every casual observation about humans published in the last 50 years. We know what the galaxy thinks of us. A new course appeared on their navigation display, a winding path that took them past several planets and moons. Follow that route, Commander Sue continued. Do not scan anything you pass. Do not record anything you see. If you violate these rules, you will be destroyed immediately. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Should we follow their course? Minho asked. Hana looked at the navigation display. The route would take them near several moons and asteroids, giving them glimpses of whatever the humans were building. Yes, she decided. But everyone be very careful. Don't activate any recording systems. The deep survey followed the designated path. What they saw along the way shocked them all. Jupiter's moon Europa had been completely transformed into a massive shipyard. Hundreds of vessels were under construction, all using designs that didn't exist in any database. Saturn's rings contained dozens of hidden space stations, each one bristling with weapons and sensors. The asteroid belt had been turned into a mining operation so vast it was reshaping the entire region. And everywhere there were defenses, weapon platforms, shield generators, and automated defense systems that could destroy entire fleets. They've militarized their entire star system, Hana whispered. In 6 months? One asked. That's impossible. Unless they'd been planning it. For years, Hana replied. As they approached Earth, the scale of the transformation became clear. The planet was surrounded by orbital stations, each one massive beyond belief. The moon's surface was covered with construction projects that glowed with energy. Dr. Hana, Sue's voice returned. You're wondering how we accomplished all this so quickly. Yes, Hana admitted. We didn't build this in 6 months. We've been building it for 3 years, in secret. While the galaxy watched our entertainment programs and listened to our music, we were preparing. Preparing for what? A long pause followed. When Sue spoke again, her voice was deadly serious. For the end of everything. The deep survey reached Earth's outer orbital zone. What Hana saw there changed everything she thought she knew about humans. Massive space stations drifted in perfect formation, each one capable of supporting millions of people. But these weren't just cities in space, they were arcs. You're planning to leave, she realized. We're planning to survive, Sue replied. And we've been watching the galaxy very carefully to decide who might survive with us. What do you mean? Every ship that has approached our system in the last 6 months has been scanned, analyzed, and evaluated. Every species, every crew member, every intention has been cataloged. Hana felt cold. You've been studying us. Yes. Because what's coming will destroy everything, and we need to choose who to save. The transmission ended, leaving Hana staring at Earth through the observation window. The planet looked peaceful from space, but she knew now that it was the center of the most massive evacuation plan in galactic history. The humans hadn't gone silent because they were afraid. They had gone silent because they were preparing to abandon the galaxy itself. And they had been watching everyone else, deciding who was worth saving. Admiral Su Jin stood in the command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps. The massive underground facility hadn't existed 2 years ago. Now it was the heart of humanity's greatest secret, the place where they planned the survival of their entire species. Holographic displays surrounded her, showing the positions of every alien ship in the Sol system, every vessel movement within 50 light-years, and every intercepted communication across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. The humans had been busy while the rest of the universe assumed they were just making noise. Status report, she called out to the room full of officers and scientists. Colonel J stepped forward from the tactical station. His young face looked tired from months of endless planning. All deep space monitoring stations are operational, Admiral. We're tracking the approach vector of the visitors. Su Jin nodded. The visitors were what they called the approaching wave of destruction that was slowly eating its way through the galaxy. Other species didn't know about them yet, but humanity had been watching them for 3 years. Dr. Kim, Sujin called to the science section. Show me the latest projections. Dr. Kim was an older woman with gray hair and worried eyes. She had been the first to detect the threat, and the weight of that discovery had aged her quickly. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. The image showed the galaxy from above, like a giant spiral of stars, but at the outer edge, a dark zone was spreading inward like a disease. Within that darkness, no stars shone, no radio signals emerged. Nothing lived. The consumption rate has increased, Dr. Kim reported. They're destroying star systems faster than we initially calculated. Our revised estimate gives the galaxy 18 months before they reach the core worlds. 18 months. Sujin felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. 18 months to evacuate as many people as possible from a galaxy that was about to die. What about the Ark ships, she asked. General Inho, a broad-shouldered man with scars from the old colonial wars, stepped up to answer. Construction is proceeding on schedule. We have 47 ships completed with space for approximately 2 million people each. Another 30 are in final assembly. And the alien ships approaching our system? 15 vessels from various species, all conducting what they believe are investigation missions. They have no idea what they're really looking at. Sujin walked to the main display, which showed Earth surrounded by its new defenses. To alien observers, it looked like humanity had suddenly become militaristic and dangerous. They couldn't see the truth, that every weapon platform was actually a piece of evacuation infrastructure disguised as a defensive system. Minister Young, she called to the diplomatic section. What's the status on the moral debate? Minister Young was a thin woman with kind eyes who carried the hardest job in human government. She had to help decide who to tell about the approaching doom and who to let live in ignorance. The World Council is still divided, she reported. Half want to warn the galaxy immediately. They believe every species deserves a chance to prepare. And the other half? They believe that revealing the threat will cause panic and chaos that will prevent anyone from preparing properly. Mass hysteria could destroy our only chance of saving some remnant of galactic civilization. Sujin understood both positions. If they warned everyone, billions of beings might die in riots, wars, and desperate attempts to escape that had no real plan. If they stayed silent, those same billions would die anyway. But some might be saved through humanity's careful evacuation planning. Dr. Kim, she said, show them the reconnaissance data. The holographic display changed to show detailed images of the approaching threat. The visitors weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were massive, organic-looking structures the size of moons, moving through space in perfect formations. Where they passed, entire solar systems went dark. Our deep space reconnaissance drones have identified the enemy's methods, Dr. Kim explained. They don't destroy planets with weapons. They consume them, completely. Every trace of organic matter, every bit of energy, every atom of useful material is absorbed. General Inho added, we've sent 312 reconnaissance missions beyond the galactic rim. Only 14 drones returned with data. The volunteers who piloted them. He paused. They knew it was a one-way mission. The room fell quiet. 300 human pilots had flown into certain death to gather the information that now filled their databases. Their sacrifice had revealed the truth about what was coming. The enemy isn't random, Dr. Kim continued. They target worlds with complex civilizations first. They seem to prefer planets with diverse populations and advanced technology. Earth would be a prime target. Which is why we're not going to be here when they arrive, Sujin said firmly. Captain Bora from the evacuation planning section stepped forward. Admiral, we need to make the final decision about alien refugees. Our ships can carry additional passengers, but it means fewer humans survive. This was the hardest part. Humanity had built the evacuation fleet with their own resources and their own sacrifice. They could fill the ships with humans and guarantee their species' survival. Or they could save aliens too, reducing their own numbers but preserving more of galactic civilization. How many additional refugees could we take? Sujin asked. If we reduce human evacuees by 30%, we could save approximately 15 million aliens from key species, scientists, artists, cultural leaders, genetic diversity samples. 15 million lives. It sounded like a lot, but against the backdrop of a galaxy containing trillions of beings, it was almost nothing. The Ethical Committee's recommendation? Su-Jin asked Minister Young. Save everyone we can, Young replied immediately. Our species' greatest strength has always been our compassion. If we abandon that to save only ourselves, we become something we shouldn't want to preserve. Colonel J disagreed. Admiral, our responsibility is to humanity first. These alien species had the same access to deep space monitoring that we did. If they chose not to look, that's not our fault. Except they didn't know to look, Dr. Kim pointed out. We only discovered the threat by accident when our deep space listening posts detected the absence of signals from the outer rim. We were listening for something else entirely. Su-Jin studied the displays around her. Every piece of data told the same story. Humanity had perhaps 18 months to complete the largest evacuation in galactic history. They could save themselves, or they could try to save others too. Commander Day, she called to the intelligence section. What do our psychological profiles say about the alien species currently investigating our system? Commander Day was a young woman with sharp eyes who had spent months analyzing every alien crew member who approached Earth. Mixed results, Admiral. The Kytheran scientists are genuinely curious and would likely cooperate with evacuation procedures. The Vrex military observers are suspicious but disciplined. The civilian crews from the inner worlds are just confused. Could they handle the truth? Some could, others would panic. A few would try to warn their governments, which could trigger exactly the kind of galactic chaos we're trying to avoid. Su-Jin made her decision. We tell them, she said firmly. Selected individuals from each investigating team. We show them the evidence, explain our evacuation plan, and give them a choice. They can return to their people and try to organize their own survival efforts, or they can stay and help us save who we can. The room stirred with surprise. It was a risky decision that could expose their entire plan. Admiral, General Inho protested, that could compromise everything we've built. It could, she agreed. But Minister Young is right. If we lose our compassion, we're not worth saving anyway. She turned to address the entire command center. Continue the evacuation preparations. Begin discreet contact with the alien investigation teams, and send one more deep space reconnaissance mission to get updated information on the enemy's approach. Speed. Admiral, Colonel J asked quietly, what if the aliens reject our offer and warn the galaxy anyway? Su-Jin looked at the holographic display showing Earth's defenses. They weren't really weapons. They were pieces of evacuation infrastructure designed to look threatening. But they could be weapons if necessary. Then we'll have to decide what our survival is worth, she said. The command center continued its work, planning humanity's exodus from the galaxy. But now they faced a new challenge. Whether to save their species alone, or risk everything to preserve the best of galactic civilization. Outside, alien ships continued their investigations, unaware that they were looking at the most massive rescue operation in history. The humans watched them carefully, evaluating each crew, each species, each individual. Who could handle the truth? Who was worth saving? Who could be trusted with the future? Time was running out and humanity had to choose. Commander Tay walked through the halls of Nexus Prime, the galactic capital, for the first time in 8 months. Every alien he passed stopped and stared. To them, he was a ghost. Humans were supposed to be extinct, or transformed into something unrecognizable. Instead, he looked exactly the same as before, but his presence sent waves of fear through the station. The Galactic Council chamber was packed beyond capacity. Representatives from hundreds of species had gathered to hear what the human had to say. Some had traveled for weeks to be there. The silence was so complete that Tay could hear his own breathing. Thank you for seeing me, he began, his voice carried by the chamber's translation systems to every species present. I know many of you believed humanity was gone. We're not gone, but we need to talk about what is. He activated the holographic projector he had brought with him. The chamber, filled with a three-dimensional image of the galaxy, beautiful and bright with billions of stars. Then the image changed, showing the outer rim where a growing darkness consumed everything in its path. This is what we discovered 3 years ago, Tay explained. A force moving through our galaxy, destroying everything it encounters. We call them the Devourers. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates from different species began shouting, clicking, whistling, and growling all at once. The council speaker slammed his staff repeatedly to restore order. "How do you know this?" demanded Ambassador Vex of the Reptilian Confederation. "Our deep space monitors show nothing." "Because you're not looking in the right places," Tay replied calmly. "Your monitors watch for ships, energy signatures, and communication signals. The Devourers leave none of those things behind. They leave nothing behind." He changed the holographic display to show detailed images captured by human reconnaissance drones. The crowd fell silent again as they saw the massive organic structures moving through space like living moons. These images were taken by volunteer human pilots who flew suicide missions beyond the galactic rim. Tay continued. "We lost over 300 brave people getting this information. They knew they would never return, but they went anyway." Captain Nari of the Earth Vessel Sanctuary stood up in the human section. She was one of 12 humans in the chamber, and her presence had been causing whispers all morning. "I was part of the reconnaissance program," she announced. "I flew to the edge of the galaxy and back. What I saw there will haunt me forever." She activated her own projector, showing readings and data from her mission. "The Devourers don't attack planets, they consume them. Completely. When they're finished with a solar system, there's nothing left but empty space. No debris, no radiation, no trace that anything ever existed there." Dr. Dong Ho, humanity's chief xenobiologist, stepped forward to address the scientific community in the chamber. "We've analyzed their behavior patterns," he said. "They're not random destroyers. They're intelligent, methodical, and they have preferences. They target systems with complex civilizations first. Worlds with diverse populations, advanced technology, and rich ecosystems are their primary goals. The implications hit the crowd like a physical blow. Every advanced species in the galaxy would be a target. "How long do we have?" asked Dr. Zara of the Academic Coalition. Tay changed the display to show the Devourers' projected path through the galaxy. Based on their current consumption rate, they will reach the core worlds in 18 months. This time, the chaos couldn't be controlled. Delegates began screaming at each other, demanding action, making accusations, and proposing desperate plans. Some called for immediate evacuation of their homeworlds. Others insisted on building massive defense fleets. A few suggested surrender negotiations. "Silence," roared the council speaker. "Commander Tay, what does humanity propose we do about this threat?" Tay looked around the chamber at hundreds of alien faces filled with fear and confusion. This was the moment he had dreaded. "We propose to leave," he said simply. The chamber fell into shocked silence. "Leave?" Ambassador Kell asked. "Leave where?" "The galaxy," Tay replied. "Humanity has been building evacuation ships for 3 years. We call them ARC ships, massive vessels capable of supporting millions of people during the journey to the Andromeda Galaxy." Captain Nari activated another display showing the human evacuation fleet. Dozens of enormous ships hung in space near Earth, each one the size of a city. "We're not planning to fight the Devourers," she explained. "Our analysis shows that resistance is impossible. They've consumed civilizations far more advanced than ours. The only rational response is evacuation." "You're running away," accused General Moore of the military alliance. "We're surviving," Tay corrected, "and we're prepared to take others with us." This statement sent new waves of shock through the chamber. The humans weren't just abandoning the galaxy, they were offering to save others. "How many?" asked Minister Fell of the Inner Worlds Union. "Our current evacuation capacity is approximately 94 million individuals," Dr. Dong Ho replied. "We had planned to use all available space for human refugees, but we're prepared to reserve 30% of our capacity for non-human passengers." The mathematics were brutal. 30% of 94 million meant space for about 28 million aliens. Against a galactic population of trillions, it was almost nothing. "Who chooses who gets saved?" demanded Ambassador Vex. Tay had expected this question. It was the one that kept him awake at night. "Volunteers," he said. We're not selecting anyone. We're simply announcing that evacuation ships will depart from designated coordinates at specific times. Anyone who can reach those locations and is willing to abandon everything they know will be given passage. What about our governments? Our military forces, our defensive preparations? General Moore asked. Do whatever you think is best, Tay replied. Build defenses, evacuate your populations, negotiate with the devourers if you want to try. We're simply offering an alternative. Captain Nari stepped forward again. But understand this. Our evacuation timeline is fixed. The devourers will reach the outer colonies in 8 months. We begin departure procedures in 6 months. Any being who wants passage on our ships needs to be at the evacuation coordinates by then. And if we choose to fight instead? Asked Admiral Rex of the Defense Coalition. Then you fight, Tay said. We'll monitor the situation and hope you succeed, but we won't be here to see the outcome. Dr. Dong Ho showed the chamber additional reconnaissance data, images of destroyed civilizations, consumed worlds, and the advancing wall of darkness that was eating the galaxy. The species we've observed being consumed were not weak, he explained. Some had energy shields that could deflect starlight. Others had weapons capable of cracking planets. All of them fell within days of first contact with the devourers. The chamber fell quiet as delegates studied the evidence. The scope of the threat was almost impossible to comprehend. Why are you telling us this now? Asked Dr. Zara. You could have kept it secret and saved only yourselves. Tay looked tired as he answered. Because despite our differences, we've been neighbors for centuries. We've shared knowledge, culture, and friendship with many of your species. We couldn't just disappear without offering the same chance of survival we're giving ourselves. But you're still abandoning us, Ambassador, Kale accused. No, Tay replied firmly. We're giving you a choice. You can come with us, or you can stay and fight, or you can find your own solution. But you can't say we didn't warn you. Captain Nari activated a final display showing coordinates and departure schedules. Evacuation ships will begin gathering. Refugees at these locations in 6 months, she announced. Passage is free, but space is limited. Refugees can bring only what they can carry, and must be prepared for a journey that will last decades. The chamber filled with whispered conversations as delegates from different species began debating among themselves. Some were already making plans to reach the evacuation points. Others were discussing military responses. A few were simply in shock. Tay watched them all with sad eyes. He knew that most of the beings in this chamber would never make it to the evacuation ships. They would stay with their worlds, their governments, their responsibilities. They would die with their galaxy. Is there anything else you can tell us? The council speaker asked. Yes, Tay replied. If any of your species manage to escape the galaxy on your own, we'll leave navigation beacons showing the route to Andromeda. We hope to see you there someday. He turned off his holographic projector and gathered his equipment. The offer stands for 6 months, he said to the chamber. After that, we're gone. As he walked out of the chamber, Tay could hear the chaos erupting behind him. Some species would try to build their own evacuation fleets. Others would prepare for war. A few might even succeed. But for most of the galaxy, the countdown to extinction had just begun. General Inho stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, watching the last human cities being evacuated from Earth's surface. Below him, the planet that had been home to humanity for millions of years was being systematically emptied. Transport ships rose from every continent, carrying people and precious cargo to the massive arc ships waiting in high orbit. Status report? He called to his aide, Lieutenant Wan. Evacuation is 73% complete, Wan replied, checking his tablet. The European and Asian sectors are finished. We're still loading refugees from the Americas and Africa. And the alien refugees? Wan's expression grew complicated. That's more difficult to calculate, sir. In the 4 months since Commander So, Tay had revealed humanity's evacuation plan to the Galactic Council. The response had been exactly what they had expected: chaos. Some species had tried to build their own evacuation fleets. Others had begun massive military buildups. A few had simply ignored the warning entirely. But thousands of individual aliens had made their way to the human evacuation points, abandoning their homes and families for a chance at survival in another galaxy. Captain So-Young commanded the Refugee Processing Center on Luna Station. She watched through the viewport as another alien transport ship docked with her facility. The passengers who disembarked were a mix of species she had never seen together before: Catharan scientists, Vrex military officers, civilian families from dozens of different worlds. "Captain," called Sergeant Kim, "we have another group requesting passage." So-Young looked at the latest arrivals, a family of blue-skinned Aquarians with their children clinging to small bags containing everything they owned. "How many total now?" she asked. 47,000 alien refugees processed and assigned to ARC ships," Kim replied. "But we're getting more every day." It was an impossible situation. Every alien refugee they accepted meant one less human could be saved. But looking at the families, the scientists, the artists, and the desperate individuals who had abandoned everything for a chance at life, So-Young couldn't bring herself to turn them away. "Process them," she ordered. "Find space somehow." Meanwhile, Engineer Kyung worked frantically in the construction bays surrounding Earth. The ARC ships were marvels of engineering, each one capable of supporting 2 million people for decades of interstellar travel. But they had been designed for humans, and now they were being modified to accommodate dozens of different species with different needs. "The atmospheric systems need complete redesign," Kyung explained to his team. "Humans breathe oxygen and nitrogen. The Aquarians need higher humidity. The Vrex require different atmospheric pressure. The crystalline species from the outer rim don't breathe at all. They absorb energy directly." His assistant, Dr. Park, looked exhausted. "Is it even possible to make ships that can support everyone?" "It has to be possible," Kyung replied grimly, "because we're running out of time." Through the construction bay windows, he could see the first signs of the approaching danger. Long-range sensors had detected the Devourer's advance fleet entering the galaxy's middle rim. Entire star systems were going dark, their lights snuffed out like candles in the wind. On Earth, the evacuation continued with desperate efficiency. Captain Bora commanded the transport operations from Seoul Spaceport, one of the last major facilities still operating on the planet's surface. "Next group, move quickly," she called to the crowd of refugees waiting to board. The mix of species was startling: human families carrying crying children, Catharan scientists with their research equipment, elderly Vrex veterans who had chosen exile over certain death. A young human girl tugged at Bora's uniform. "Captain, are we really leaving Earth forever?" Bora knelt down to look the child in the eyes. The question broke her heart, but she had to be honest. "Yes," she said gently, "but we're going to find a new home, a safe home." "Will it be as beautiful as Earth?" Bora looked out the spaceport window at the green hills and blue sky of her homeworld. "I hope so," she whispered. As the evacuation continued, reports came in from across the galaxy. The Devourers had reached the Middle Rim territories, and the first direct battles had begun. The results were exactly what humanity had predicted: complete annihilation. The hegemony of Corvin had been one of the galaxy's major military powers. Their fleet consisted of 10,000 warships, each one capable of destroying planets. They had laughed at humanity's warnings and prepared for glorious battle. They lasted 6 hours. The Vrex Empire had constructed massive orbital defense platforms around their homeworld, energy shields that could deflect attacks from entire fleets, weapons that could shatter moons. The Devourers consumed everything in 18 minutes. The academic worlds of the Inner Ring had tried negotiation, broadcasting mathematical proofs of their civilization's value and complexity. There was no response. There were never any survivors to report what the Devourers actually were. Admiral Sujin received these reports in the underground command center that coordinated the evacuation. Each fallen civilization was marked on the galactic display with a growing field of darkness. "How much time do we have?" she asked Dr. Kim. "The Devourers are moving faster than our initial projections," Kim replied. "They seem to be accelerating as they consume more systems. I estimate 6 weeks before they reach Earth." 6 weeks. Sujin looked at the evacuation statistics. They were behind schedule. Can we be ready in time? If we leave some people behind, General Inho said bluntly. The final ARC ships aren't fully loaded yet. We could launch them now and save who we can, or we can wait and risk losing everyone. It was the choice they had all dreaded. Save some and abandon others, or risk saving no one. How many people are still waiting for evacuation? Sujin asked. Approximately 800,000 humans and 30,000 aliens, Colonel J reported. Nearly 1 million people. The weight of their lives pressed down on everyone in the command center. Captain So Young's voice came through the communication system from Luna Station. Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from refugee ships throughout the system. Families that have been traveling for months to reach us are just arriving. How many? Unknown. Could be hundreds of thousands more. Sujin closed her eyes. The mathematics were brutal. They could launch the evacuation fleet now and save 90% of the refugees, or wait and potentially lose everyone to the approaching devourers. Admiral, Minister Young called from the diplomatic station. I'm receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're begging us to delay our departure and help coordinate their defense efforts. What's their situation? Chaos. Most governments have fallen. Refugee fleets from dozens of species are wandering through space with nowhere to go. They want us to lead a united resistance against the devourers. General Inho shook his head. It's too late for resistance. We tried to warn them 4 months ago. But we could still help coordinate evacuations, Minister Young argued. Share our escape routes, provide technical assistance for their own evacuation efforts. At the cost of our own people's lives, Colonel J pointed out. The debate that followed tore at everyone's conscience. They could follow their original plan, save who they could and abandon the rest. They could try to help coordinate galactic evacuation efforts and risk losing everyone. Or they could find some middle ground that would save fewer people, but preserve more of galactic civilization. Sujin made the hardest decision of her life. We launch the completed ARC ships immediately, she ordered. But we delay the final ships for 2 weeks to take on additional refugees and provide evacuation coordination to any species that requests it. Admiral, that's incredibly risky, General Inho protested. I know, but if we're going to be the last survivors of this galaxy, we need to be survivors worth preserving. The evacuation fleet began its departure. 47 massive ARC ships, each carrying millions of refugees from dozens of species, powered up their engines and prepared for the long journey to Andromeda. Captain Nari commanded the lead ship, New Earth. As her vessel pulled away from the Sol system, she watched through the viewport as Earth grew smaller behind them. Course set for Andromeda Galaxy, her navigator reported. Journey time, 43 years. 43 years in the darkness between galaxies. Nari hoped it would be enough time to plan for whatever they would find on the other side. Behind them, the remaining ARC ships continued loading refugees as reports came in of the Devourer's advance. Each day brought news of more fallen worlds, more dead civilizations, more proof that their decision to run had been the only rational choice. But as Nari watched the stars of her home galaxy fade in the distance, she wondered if survival without hope was really living at all. The choice had been made. Now they would discover if it had been the right one. Ambassador Wu stood before what remained of the Galactic Council for the last time. The great chamber that had once held representatives from hundreds of species now contained fewer than 30 delegates. The others were either dead, fleeing, or fighting hopeless battles against the approaching devourers. The offer still stands, he said calmly, his voice echoing in the nearly empty hall. Evacuation coordinates are being broadcast on all emergency frequencies. Any being who can reach our ships will be given passage. You're abandoning us, accused Ambassador Kyle, one of the few remaining Vrex representatives. His blue skin had turned pale gray with stress. Your species could help coordinate the defense of the galaxy, but instead you run. Wu looked at him with sad eyes. Ambassador, your empire's greatest fortress world fell to the Devourers in 18 minutes. What defense do you think we could coordinate? The truth hung heavy in the air. Every major military power in the galaxy had tried to fight. The Corvin hegemony, the Reptilian Confederation, the Crystal Collective, all had thrown their most advanced weapons at the approaching darkness. All had been consumed without even slowing the enemy down. The final evacuation ships depart in 72 hours, Wu continued. After that, we're gone. He turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving behind the ruins of galactic civilization. On 9, Earth Captain Bond led the final evacuation efforts. His job was the hardest of all. He commanded the rearguard, the volunteers who stayed behind to help others escape even though they knew they might not make it out themselves. Status on the outer colonies, he called to his communication officer. Mars colony evacuation completed 6 hours ago, Lieutenant Sue reported. Europa Station is loading their last transport now, but we're still receiving distress calls from throughout the system. Through the command center's windows, Bond could see streams of ships rising from Earth's surface, not just human vessels, but alien craft of every description. Species that had scorned humanity's warnings months ago were now desperately fleeing to the evacuation points. "Sir," called Sergeant Lee from the long-range sensors. "I'm detecting ships at the system's edge." "Refugees?" "No, sir. Unknown configuration. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database." Bond felt ice in his veins. "Are they devourers?" "Unknown. They're not approaching, just watching. The advanced scouts. The devourers had found them." "How much time do we have?" Lee worked frantically at his console. "Based on their movement patterns from other systems, maybe 48 hours before the main fleet arrives. 48 hours. The final evacuation ships weren't scheduled to launch for 72 hours. Send an emergency transmission to all remaining ARC ships," Bond ordered. "Accelerate departure schedule. Launch in 24 hours, ready or not." Admiral Su Jin received the transmission in the command bunker beneath the Swiss Alps. Around her, the underground facility was being systematically shut down as the last human government prepared to abandon Earth forever. "How many people are still waiting for evacuation?" she asked. "Approximately 200,000 humans and 60,000 aliens," Colonel J reported. "But more refugee ships are arriving every hour." "And our capacity on the remaining ARC ships?" "We can take maybe half of them. The ships are already overcrowded beyond safe limits. The final, terrible choice: leave immediately and save half the remaining refugees, or wait and risk losing everyone." Captain Min commanded the last ARC ship, New Earth. His vessel was the largest and most advanced of the evacuation fleet, a massive city ship designed to serve as the flagship of humanity's exodus. Through his bridge windows, he could see the frantic activity around Earth as the final evacuations proceeded. "Captain," called his communications officer, "I'm receiving transmissions from all over the galaxy." "What kind of transmissions?" "Goodbyes, sir. Final messages from colonies, outposts, and ships that know they won't make it to the evacuation points." Min closed his eyes. The galaxy was dying, and its final words were being broadcast into the void. "Record everything," he ordered quietly. "We'll carry their voices with us." The messages came from everywhere. Catheran scientists sharing their final research, Vrex military units making their last stand, families separated by impossible distances saying farewell to each other across the stars. Each transmission was a life ending, a world falling silent, a piece of galactic civilization disappearing forever. On Luna Station, Captain So Young coordinated the final refugee processing. The docking bays were packed beyond capacity as alien families crowded together, waiting for assignment to evacuation ships. "Captain," called Dr. Park, "we have a problem. The Aquarian families need water-filled compartments, but we're out of space to install them." So Young looked at the blue-skinned aliens holding their children. They had traveled for months to reach this place, abandoning their ocean world for a chance at survival. "Put them in the emergency supply compartments," she decided. "We'll figure out something during the journey." "Captain, those compartments aren't rated for living beings." "Then we'll make them work. We're not leaving anyone behind who made it this far." As the evacuation continued, the scouts at the edge of the system reported more devourer ships arriving. The enemy fleet was massive. Hundreds of organic vessels the size of moons moving with purpose and intelligence toward the inner system. General Inho watched the tactical displays with growing dread. "They're not approaching randomly," he observed. "They're surrounding us." "Surrounding us for what?" asked Dr. Kim. "To make sure nothing escapes." The realization hit everyone at once. The Devourers weren't just planning to consume the Sol system. They were planning to trap everyone inside it first. "Emergency acceleration of all departures," Admiral Su-jin ordered. "Launch every ship that can fly, regardless of passenger load or supply status." The final exodus began. One by one, the massive ARC ships powered up their engines and lifted away from Earth's orbital facilities. Each ship carried millions of refugees, humans, aliens, and desperate families from species that had never cooperated before. Captain Min watched from the bridge of New Earth as his ship prepared for departure. The planet below him was still beautiful, blue and green and perfect. But it was no longer home. Home was now wherever the human race survived. "All systems ready for departure," his navigation officer reported. "Final passenger count?" 2.3 million souls aboard, sir, representing 47 different species. 2.3 million survivors from a galaxy that had contained trillions of beings. Set course for Andromeda Galaxy, Min ordered. Maximum velocity. As the ARC ships entered faster than light travel, they left behind more than just their home system. They left behind the dreams, hopes, and civilizations of an entire galaxy. But they also carried with them something precious, the memory of what had been and the hope of what might be again. The final transmission came from Earth itself, broadcast on all frequencies as the Devourer fleet closed in on the abandoned planet. "This is Earth," the message said simply. "We remember you all." The transmission repeated continuously, even as the first Devourer ships reached Earth's orbital zone. It continued as the massive organic vessels began their consumption of humanity's homeworld. It lasted until the very moment Earth itself was consumed, leaving nothing but empty space where a civilization had once thrived. But by then, the ARC ships were already deep in the darkness between galaxies, carrying their precious cargo toward an uncertain future. Captain Min stood on the observation deck of New Earth, watching the galaxy fade behind them. Around him, refugees from dozens of species looked back at the only home they had ever known. "Will we ever go back?" asked a young Kitharan girl, her green skin marking her as one of the galaxy's most analytical species. Min looked down at her, then back at the shrinking spiral of stars behind them. "Someday," he said quietly. "When it's safe again, when we're strong enough. We'll go back and remember what was there." The journey to Andromeda would take decades. During that time, the refugees would build new communities, new relationships, and new hopes. Children would be born who had never seen their parents' homeworlds. Cultures would blend and change. The survivors would become something new, but they would remember. In their archives, their stories, and their hearts, they would carry the memory of a galaxy that had lived, thrived, and died. And perhaps someday they would return to plant new seeds in the darkness left behind. The galaxy had gone silent, but its voice lived on in the ships sailing through the void, carrying tomorrow toward the stars.